Okay, Dr. Ramos.
All right, welcome everyone. It seems like it's been a while since the last time we met. So again, welcome for everyone being on today. Blanca, can you go ahead and do a roll call?
Yes. It is Steve Omos, Dr. Omos.
Here.
Courtney Portal.
Present.
Derek Clark.
Here.
Gloria Pianca.
Here.
Joel Hanson.
Here.
Damaris Brooks.
Present.
Dr. Damaris Brooks.
I am here.
Everyone present.
Okay, great, thank you. All right, let's go ahead and review the agenda. And do I have anyone to adopt the agenda for today?
I'll move that we adopt today's agenda.
Thank you, Damaris. A second?
Do I just say I second that?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you, Courtney. Okay. And then the first thing we have is public comment. And Phil, are you tracking the public comments coming in?
Yes, Dr. Ramos, I am. And let me see if last I checked, there are no public. One sec, sorry. I have no public comments at this time.
Okay, thank you. Next item on the agenda is in our action items. The first action item we have is to adopt the minutes from May 21st. Could I have a first to adopt those?
I make a motion, we adopt the minutes from May 21st.
Thank you, Joel. And a second?
I second.
Thank you, Derek. Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
This is where it gets a little complicated with Zoom. Okay, thank you all. Next action item is to adopt the minutes from September 9th.
Make a motion, we adopt the minutes for September 9th.
Thank you, Joelle. And a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Damaris. All those in favor for adopting the minutes?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Okay, and then our big presentation for today is our charter petition renewal. So Phil will get into the details of this and do a presentation. But our charter petition, it's hard to believe that, OYA has been around for 5 years. And so we now have to submit our renewal petition in January for approval. So hopefully we'll get another 5 years coming forward on this. A lot of we did a material revision last year. So a lot of the petition was updated and renewed at that point in time with new locations that we opened, with new ed code, everything else. So the material revision took care of a lot of the changes. So this petition renewal doesn't have a lot of changes as much as we did last time. So Phil will go over his presentation and also present that to you guys, and I'll hopefully have some feedback on that as well on what to include in our petition going forward. So Phil.
Thank you, Dr. Ramos. I'm going to share my screen. You should have received a copy of the PowerPoint presentation and a copy of the draft of the petition. If you haven't received that, let me know and I can certainly send that over to you. Understand that the actual petition itself, so the meat of the petition is about 155 pages, but with all of the attachments, it rounds out closer to about 500 pages long. So what I sent over to you was just the petition itself, which is about 158 pages or so. And it isn't in draft form. So I'm still making some changes to it. Updating, for example, I did receive the multi-year projection, the cash flow, the assumptions. I did receive that from the budget office yesterday, and I went ahead and plugged some of that information into the petition. So I'm going to share my screen. Okay, can everyone see my screen? Uh-oh. Can everyone see my screen? Okay, good. Sorry about that. Technology, I'm telling you. Okay, I'm just gonna undo. Sorry, everybody. Okay, so here's our, so just a few introductory slides. First, our Santa Clara County Office of Education slide. We are the Santa Clara County Office of Education, Instructional Business Technology Services to 31. I think that's actually 32 school districts. Is that right, or is it 31? I think it's 31 districts. Directly serve students through special education programs, alternative schools, Head Start, preschool, Migrant Ed, Opportunity Academy, provides academic and fiscal oversight, monitoring to school districts and the 22 county board authorized charter schools, and provides essential services and technical assistance throughout the region and statewide. The leadership that does support OYA and the county office, certainly Dr. Marianne Dewan, our county superintendent, our county board of education members, which are listed here, and of course, Dr. Almos, our assistant superintendent. So I wanted to start off with just our mission and vision. It is quite long, but I wanted to just make sure that folks that when I present this, particularly to our board, you really get a sense of what OYA is about and what is our mission and our vision. So OYA strives to break the cycle of poverty by providing students who have dropped out of school or otherwise disengaged from school an opportunity to complete their high school education. OYA views disengaged students as at promise as opposed to at risk. And to that end, OYA's organizational mission is to provide a premier high school re-engagement program, engaging students through relationship-focused, high-tech, and rigorous learning experiences, resulting in students in graduating being ready to learn, ready to work, and ready to live. One of the things I do want to add on to this that we have done, started to do anyway in the last probably year, 2 years, is really start having a focus on a college and career going culture. And so I want to be sure that I highlight that we're taking steps towards college and career readiness. That is a big part of our vision and mission as well. So I want to talk just a little bit about, and I wish sorry, everybody. So the PowerPoint for some reason is not allowing me to see my notes, which I had, which are right here. So if you just give me 1 second, can you guys give me just 1 second? Let me try to redo this here real quick. So I have all my notes, and without it, it's hard to do this. And I don't know why. I'm going to stop sharing for a second, if that's okay.
I could be wrong, but I think that when you're in a slideshow, you won't be able to see your notes.
That's a bummer.
So you can just share the slide without being in the show mode, and then you'll be able to see your notes. But I could be wrong, but that's my.
Are you using Google Slides or PowerPoint?
PowerPoint.
Okay.
So That's a bummer because,
But you can also print out the notes or, save the notes in a separate document and read it while you're presenting too.
yeah, I
That's
may
usually-
have to do that. Right. Well, we're gonna roll with it. And I'm telling you, I practiced like for days. So I guess I got to memorize my notes.
Or open 2 versions of it, Phil.
I could do that, but we're gonna roll with it. So, that's just what we do, right? All right. So everyone can see my screen. Okay. So under AB 1505, why don't you guys just read my notes there? And if you have any questions, no, I'm just kidding. Under AB 1505, which was signed by the governor before October 12 and made effective July 1st, 2020, there were a number of changes in the charter petition process. And I'm not going to go into the details of those changes because there's a lot of them, but I do want to focus a little bit on the renewal criteria process because that's really what we're talking about. So the new process really pulls from the indicators from the dashboard, the state and those local indicators, and there's 7 of them. And they're listed here: the chronic absenteeism, suspension rates, English learner progress, graduation, college and career, ELA, and math. So when they pull this, the CD creates now these 3 tracks, right, for charter schools, and you fall into either one of these tracks. You fall into a high, a middle, or a low track. So high tracks, so students or schools that fall into these high tracks basically get what they call an expedited renewal. The only thing that they need to do is update their charter. All of the different ed code laws that were new, they update the charter, and basically then they are renewed for a 5 to 7 year term. That's new for this new process. And what is that based on to be part of a high track? Well, basically all of your academic performance indicators are either green or blue. Basically, they're all in that high performing level students in all students or in the majority of your subgroup or your student group. If you don't fall in the high track, then you fall in the low track, which basically it is a presumptive it's a non-renewal basis. And schools that fall into those low tracks are the opposite of high track schools, obviously. They do what they call a second look, and they have to go through this process where different measures are considered, and the county board or the authorizer has to look at those measures, and they only give them a 2-year renewal. And within those 2 years, there's these checks, it's a kind of a check-in process within those 2 years. So it's a pretty intense renewal process for schools that fall into that low track. Schools that don't fall into high or middle, or excuse me, to low, fall into middle, which is a combination of the two. And they are renewed at 5 years. I say this to you because OYA doesn't fall into high, middle, or low. We are a DOS school. So we fall into the dashboard alternative school status. And basically that means that an authorizer, our board, will consider the dashboard indicators, but they also look at alternative matrix. So they look at our RENSTAR, our ALPAC, our EL classification, our enrollment, our attendance, our culture. They look at kind of a big picture of our progress, understanding the population of our students, that we're not going to be in the blue and green. We might be all in red in some of these indicators. Important here is that denial of a DOS renewal must establish findings of the facts supporting that the closure of the school is in the best interest of the students. So with that being said, I think what I've done is try to present that OYA, try to present that OYA is in fact an important part of the success of our students within the communities. Not necessarily based on some of the indicators or the academic indicators, but based on our graduation, based on our students that are going to community college, based on all of the different programs that we've put in place, and that our students are still succeeding, they're still graduating, and they're still moving on to a college or career post-secondary plan. So who are our students? Well, we approximately serve 380 students, grades 9 through 12, youth and young adults, 16 to 24. Our current breakdown is 87% of our students are Hispanic, 9 or close to 10% are foster homeless. We have 32% are English learners, 21 are students with special needs, and 72% of our students are socioeconomically disadvantaged students. 100% of our students are credit deficient, or what I like to call credit recovery. So they're on the journey of recovering credits. And that's every student that comes through our door. The reason why we are eligible for DOS is because of this 72% of our population being socially economically disadvantaged, and also 100% of our students are credit recovery. So we had to apply for DOS eligibility, and we were just granted that. So what are the needs of our students? So what we do is, and this is based on about 200, a little over 200 students taking our student success survey. Prior to orientation, or students that are enrolled with us, prior to them actually participating in orientation, they are now required to do a student success assessment. And this is important for us because it identifies the needs of our students. We want to know what are some of the barriers and challenges that they face prior to starting OYA, and what they're going to have to overcome while they're in OYA. This is information that our navigators use to make referrals through Resource Link, which is my next slide, and look for all the different resources, different organizations that can help our students. So I'm not going to go through every single line, but just note that 66% of our students need employment. And I'm sure that's even higher now. But for the most part, our students absolutely need to work and go to school, which is why our flexibility in OYA is so important to their success. Flexibility being that they can tailor their education program around their needs, and we can then help them meet some of those needs. One of the great things that I think Courtney kind of led this and continues to lead is the Resource Link program that we have with Bill Wilson and Planned Parenthood, Teen Success, Work to Future, Juma, all of these different organizations. When we get the information based on that survey, we have this process through Resource Link that we can make referrals to these different organizations that will help our students. We can pull data. We can look at what are some of the gaps in resources that we need to provide to our students. And what's really cool about this is that all of the different representatives, CBOs and representatives, meet and talk about what are some of the things that are working well and what are some of the things that need to be improved. So let's talk a little bit about data. And the next 10 slides are really going to be focused on just our progress. So first, our enrollment trends. One thing I didn't put on here was that in 2016-17, our total enrollment was between 65 and 67 students. In 17-18, we went up to 222. And the reason why there was such an increase was because in 16-17, there was this, I don't want to say it was law, but certainly it was that students needed to be out of school for 3 to 6 months before they can enroll with OYA. They needed to be disengaged. What we were finding is that many students would just sit home and they were not going to school, and we couldn't enroll them in OYA because they were not within that 3-month mark. So they waited. So what we did was we said, well, let's take a look at that again. Let's make sure we're going to allow students to enroll with us. We're not going to go by the 3-month rule, but we're going to make sure that students are truly disengaged, that they were not going to school at all, that they were credit deficient. And by not going to school, I don't mean that they were out of school for a week. We wanted to really look at how long have you really not been going to school. And as a result, we saw a huge increase in our minor enrollment, our students who are minors enrolling into OYA. But this 222 number was still 50% adult and 50% minor students that were minors. And it's remained that way since 2017-18. We didn't have a huge increase of minors that were, now we were just enrolling minor students. We still maintain that 50-50. In 18-19, we increased by, we went up to 320 students, 367 in 19-20. And in 2021, this year, this number actually is, we're at 340 now. A slight decrease, but that is because of the pandemic. Not a huge decrease that I thought we were going to have at the end of last year, but still a slight decrease from 19-20. Our attendance averages, again, in 2017-18, 161. This is our ADA, so this is what we would report out to the state. 161 students, then 198, then 202, and then this number is at 230, but currently it's right around 240. So this is the number of students that are actively engaged in OYA. So we're giving them attendance because they are meeting that 20 hours of work, producing 20 hours of work a week. Do you want me to stop and take questions, Dr. Amos, or just keep going? Just keep going? Okay. So a little bit about the California dashboard. There are 3 indicators for us anyway that we can report on. One is the graduation rate, the other is the college and career readiness rate, and then the suspension rate. I'm happy to report that our suspension rate, we are in the blue because we don't suspend students. So that's why we have such a wonderful suspension rate as being in the blue indicator. Our California, or our graduation rate, we still are in that red part. However, in 2018-19, we actually had an 8% increase in our graduation rate overall. In our English learners, we maintained at a negative 0.3%. In our low income, we actually increased by 7%. In our Hispanic or Latino group, we actually increased 8.5%. The reason why we made this increase was because in 2017-18, we placed students in grades according to age. So basically every student up to 18-19, all adult students were in 12th grade. So that's 50%, even more. So we made the shift, and so we started to do grade placement based on credits earned when they started up with us. So then we had a true grade level, right? So true 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th. And as a result, by that shift, we were able to make sure that our seniors, that we had a better understanding or a better group of students that graduated, and we were able to pull that in from that data, and it was a little more accurate. Unfortunately, because of 19-20, we're not going to have, we don't have that information for next year's dashboard. At least I'm not sure if we're going to have it in December. I don't know what that status is. I'm being told we're not. So I don't have numbers for last year. I did ask our counselor to pull some information to find out how many students did graduate for last year and what was our senior class, and she hopefully will be able to get that information to me, and I can share that with you. I'm hoping that it'll increase even more. Our college and career readiness indicator, we have a lot of work to do in this area. 98.6% are showing not prepared. We did have a 0.5 prepared for all students, and then a 1%, 1.2%, and 1.1% approaching. But what we wanted to do is make sure that we are positioning our students so that they are actually taking dual enrollment classes, they're in CTE pathways, they're completing those pathways. This is really drawn from the SBAC and the scores that they are, the scores from the SBAC that they take. But there's a lot of work that we still need to do in our college and career readiness.
I have a question, Phil, because
Yes.
the CCI is many different indicators within it. So if a student is not, and I don't know how they figure out the graduating cohort, because if they're not graduated automatically, they're not prepared. Doesn't matter what they get or how many college credits they have or whatever. They're just automatically. So I don't know what percentage of your students. I don't even know how they would track that, because it's a different cohort than like a comprehensive high school where you start with when the student enters the high school, they become part of that cohort by California's data. But I'm just curious as to I mean, do you know the different reasons? Because again, there's dual enrollment that can help students be prepared. There's completers. There's, AP, SBAC. All of those things can help with it. So I'm just curious if you've done a breakdown of what is the barrier for the CCI, and is it mostly the graduation rate?
I haven't done a breakdown of it, and I will. I would assume it's the graduation rate, because we are a one-year cohort. So you're right, we don't do the 4-year cohort because we're a DOS school. I can imagine that's what it is. I don't know, Dr. Almos, do you have any idea of that?
Yeah, Lori put a comment in, and again, completely right that being a DOS school, we don't have the 4-year cohort, so 1 year. So it's counted on all the students who are seniors or classified as seniors per their credit accrual. But one thing we do have to look at is to see, as you said, there are indicators. Obviously, with college and career readiness, the academics really hinder some of our students. And so we had to look at the other criteria for CCI where we might be able to bolster that up and help our students reach that indicator.
Yeah, because
right. One of the only, that's my grandson. The only indicators really that OYA and SciTech of the college and career indicators that we could work toward are, the CTE pathway completions and the dual enrollment and earning the college credits. So moving forward, as staff start, feeling more comfortable with the available CTE courses and that sort of thing, and students start completing a full pathway, then they're entered, in CalPAD Plus, then those will show up and will be contribute to your college and career readiness indicators, the completion of the CTE pathways, and the dual enrollment credits. And you all have increased your students that are in college courses, so that should start showing up as well. But it's making sure, though, that any CTE courses that students do complete, that they're getting entered in CalPADs.
Yeah. The only reason why I asked is because, Phil, you had that as part of your mission and vision and sort of the goals. And so I was just curious as if there was an understanding of the barriers, because that's going to drive your mission and your program, I would think.
Yes, which is why we're looking at more of creating the CTE pathways, making sure our students are getting through those CTE pathways, heavy investment in dual enrollment. Some of the things that Lori just kind of talked about is what we've been really focused on knowing that that really is I think the only way that we're going to be able to increase our college and career readiness indicator.
Right, that's the same thing for us, Phil. That's the
Yeah.
same things we have to focus on. And you all have done a lot of work around making sure that students, when they're enrolled, are entered into the correct grade. And you know, you don't just automatically roll over students if they don't look like they're going to graduate in the coming months. Then you keep them as an 11th grader so they don't end up in your cohort.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you all have made a lot of progress in that. That's great.
Yeah.
Phil, is like around college and career readiness. Is there any type of more like support services that you would think of that might be needed to help fill that capacity?
Support services in what way, Derek? Are you meaning like teachers, or are you talking about just support services for students that are going through a pathway?
Yeah, just support services for like students that are actually going through like a pathway to support the student, but also to like support the teacher working with the student.
Yes, so SciTech has done just a fantastic job with us building out some of the pathways, providing some great training and professional development to our teachers. In terms of our students going through the pathways, our navigators, our college and career liaison, our counselor, just having those support staff in line with, okay, what are we doing when a student needs you know, an internship, and how are we going to support? So then we reach out to our San Jose Works partnership. You know, so we've spent some time working with ConnectEd over the last 4 or 5 weeks, every Friday, building out some pathways, doing some work on, okay, what is that going to look like? Particularly 2 pathways, our health and our ICT pathway, and putting together kind of a program for that, and then what all the supports that are needed for that. Not just support, you know, for that are coming from OYA, but all the external support. So some of the organizations, some of the partners that we need to build and have them come in and be a part of that support system for our students and our teachers. So we're building up to it.
Okay.
Yeah. Good. Okay. However, we do have students going to community college, and this is the most, I think, exciting part for me. You know, this is pulled from the CDE, our post-secondary outcomes. Obviously, this is self-reported from our students and also from colleges that, and I think this is the National Clearinghouse, this is where they pull this information. But we have right now, at least from what's being reported, it's 12 students in community college. This is what we've been able, but we did survey all of our alum students, and we actually have 50 students right now in community college, alum that graduated in the last year. So that's significant. That's huge, considering that that wasn't the case a few years ago. Currently, we have 2 students that are dually enrolled in community college right now. 2 reported to be in a private school or in a 4-year college. So that, if I could just stop right there and say, you know, this slide right here, I think somehow answers the question, is OYA important to the community? Absolutely. We're getting the results. On top of this, we've had over 300 students graduate from OYA and are moving on, or either are going to community college, are working. So this is such a great slide, and I think great information. We celebrate this, and I share this with our staff all the time. We're doing it. Look at these, look what's happening. And one of the things I will, and I'll send this to you, is some of the great quotes, not quotes, but comments that we're getting from students that they're sharing with us about some of the big turns in their lives. One student in particular that just graduated from the hub, she just graduated from the hub. She was going through cancer treatment, had children, and was working full time and going to school full time, and she just graduated from high school. You know, some of these just amazing stories and challenges that they have to face getting through it, and they do every single time. So This is just a wonderful slide. I take a lot of pride in this. So, but let's look at some of the academic data. From our SPEC data and our ELA, we do show some growth. It's a little growth, but it's growth. For our all students back in 2017-18, 10% of our students were showing met proficiency. And then in 18-19, we had an increase in all students. Our Latino population is a slight increase, and certainly in our low income students are a slight increase. The reason why the other subgroups are not, or student groups are not presented here is because, well, you have to have a certain number of students that would test to report out. And so we didn't have that data to show. Our math, again, something that I think our students struggle in is math proficiency. And so in 18-19, we had a 4% overall, but in our student groups, 0%. So something that we know, and many of our students come better prepared in ELA, whereas in our math, they do come in very deficient in just foundational skills in math. Our LPAC. This is something that our students are actually doing very well in taking our LPAC and actually making progress along the levels. Now, the difference here, though, is in 17-18, they were actually taking the CELT. So that was 5 levels, right? And then when we transitioned to the LPAC, it transitioned to 4 levels. But what I want you to notice here is that in 17-18, the majority of our students fell into level 1, which was that beginning level. And then the rest of them fell into level 3, which was that intermediate level. When we retested in 18-19, we had them, and this is what you do want to see, is a decrease in level 1 and an increase in level 4. And so we had our students really moving from level to level. 45% of our students, of our EL students, progressed at least 1 level of proficiency, which is something to celebrate. Our students, our English learners are working extremely hard, so are our teachers, using strategies through eloquence is what we use, having our students use that curriculum online, but also supporting our students and all the different strategies and our paraprofessionals as well, spending a little more time with our EL students. However, we haven't reclassified any of our EL students, and that's an area that we need to really focus on, is how do we reclass them? We have to use other measurements to make sure that we can reclass. But they're not, because they're not testing in those other measurements and those other assessments, it becomes very difficult to reclass, even though our LPAC is showing growth. Our RenStar, our reading and math, so our reading overall, we are showing some growth overall, but we're still hovering around 6th grade level for our students. And so this is another area that we constantly are working at, trying to help our students, one, take the test more than 7 minutes, get them engaged, encourage them, let them know that this test is important for us to understand where they're at in their progress as a way to help them or understand what we need to do to help support them. Same with math.
Bill?
Yes.
I have a question about this, the reading and the math.
Yes.
Are these the same students that you've tested and followed over the 3, or is it a point in time? Is it students coming in and taking that enrollment?
It is so hard. What we tried to do is pull as many of the students that were alike. So if there was an overall time, let's say if it was 1 year or somewhere around there, try to get it to a place where we had the same group of students. But it's difficult because students are dropping in
Right.
at certain times. So it's not always the same group, but we tried to make sure that we got it down to a group that we said, okay, this is a great group that would provide us the best data overall. But
So
yeah,
you look at your students and see, okay, how many students have like been enrolled for, whatever certain amount of time,
yes,
and then pull that same group of students for each of the 3 school years.
yes, and try to track as best as we
Yeah.
can. And it's difficult.
It sounds like the data system you're working with is not too intuitive.
It's not, but I think that, and I don't know, Lori, how well Renstar is working for you, but it just becomes, because it is a moving target with our
Right.
students. And
Yeah.
so we can have a student that maybe tested in 17, 18, and then in 19, we just didn't see them, or they came in the second year of 17, 18, and then the first part of 18, 19, they weren't there. And then, so it just becomes very difficult to get an accurate read on these scores.
I think, Phil, the way to try to manage that, or at least get more baseline and growth scores, is we test quarterly for all of our students. So our population is just too mobile to wait for a year. So we look for growth every 3 months, and with the goal of 2 years growth in 1 year.
Yeah.
So
do we. We
yeah,
test
and I
quarterly
know
as
you
well.
guys do,
Yeah.
but I think that's the key, is you have to test more often. And
Yeah.
then of course there's the incentive piece, and it makes it harder, of course, when we're not face to face with students. But we always talk about giving your full attention to it. If you can cancel tests also, if a student takes 7 minutes on a test, you can cancel that test within 24 hours and ask the student to retest. And also we could have staff do some more training for you all on the testing process, and also on pulling the reports that would help you to see what's going on with individual students, if that would be helpful.
Is this accelerated reader? Is that what this is? Accelerated reader, the Renstar?
No.
Okay.
No, it's just a assessment process for math and reading. It's not accelerated reader.
Okay.
This is an actual testing process.
Okay.
Yes, and so in 18, 19, I think we had the highest turnout of testers, because we did do a lot of promoting prior to that test week. We fed them, we went, and I don't know, I was told, I heard that some even went to go pick up students and try to get them to come in, and how do we help with childcare, and some of that. So we did have we're getting better at that, and we're getting more of a turnout from our students, and that's promising. But then COVID hit, and now it's hard to do
and
that.
And they can test remotely also. Yes. So if you all needed any support with that as well, that process, we could help.
Yeah.
Can you give credits for them taking these tests as an incentive? Can you offer credits?
We always tell the student it's part of them finishing up all of their, especially for the growth test, that it's part of their senior project requirements to complete the growth assessment.
Mm-hmm.
So, they're usually, by then they're pretty bought into the system, but like Phil was saying, I mean, sometimes some of the silliest things really work well. Like in the past, when we were able to work with students in the classroom, we'd tell them everybody that gets 2 years growth gets a donut, and students were asking to retest just to try to make the 2 years. Even though they have 3 meals a day served on campus and the whole thing, they wanted those donuts. So sometimes it's amazing the things that they are excited about. So
Pizza parties, that was big.
Yeah,
That was huge, and that got a lot of students in the seats to take the test. Now, to get them to actually spend the time to do the test and do it more than, it's a 15-minute assessment, maybe even longer than that. But, when you pull the report, you can see some students who are doing it in 2 minutes.
right. Right.
And so, it's having the discussion with the students and saying to them, the reason why you're doing this, one, is because we're feeding you, it's important, but we want to show progress, and we want to, celebrate the progress that they will have from quarter to quarter.
Well, and something we also tell them, and it usually works, because they have great relationships with their teachers.
Mhm.
And we also tell them, hey, you doing well is showing what an amazing teacher you have.
Yeah.
So, think about your teacher being so proud of your results and her class or his class's results. And sometimes when they think about it that way, that they're actually showing how well their teacher has supported them by growing in these tests. Sometimes that actually makes it seem more personal and something they might try harder on.
And I think it's interesting that you say that, Lori, because I had this discussion just the other day with our teachers, and I basically told them that, our students will move mountains for them just because of the relationship that they build with our students. I mean, they will, it's personal. And so just sharing that with students, saying how important this test is to them, I think could be a game changer for our students, and taking the test seriously, I think, is important. With that in mind, one of the things I wanted to do in the charter was to really just point out areas of challenge and improvement. So this is what I would like to point out that we were going to focus on over the next 5 years, or, there's more to this, certainly reading and ELA and math. But these, I think, are 3 areas that we should really get focused on. One is our English learner reclass. I think that's something that we need to do better at, finding different ways of reclassing. We understand that, like I said, our SBAC and some of the other measures are not, are at this time anyway, we can't use, but certainly put an emphasis for our EL students to turn up and take those assessments, talk to our students about reclass and what does that mean for them. But I think really having small group instruction, small group in-person or virtual support, and then use some of the universal design learning strategies that our paras have been trained on and our teachers are starting to be trained on to help support this population. College and career readiness certainly is something that is a challenge, and I think an improvement that we've been working on over time. So it's more kind of shift to a college and career going culture, and not high school completion, high school diploma. That's not the end goal. The end goal is college and career readiness. Utilizing our Naviance, having more students utilize Naviance as a way to explore careers, explore college, opportunities. And I think we're doing better at that. We want to implement our linked learning pathways. So 2 pathways is our health opportunity pathway education, which we've built out. And I'll share that built out with you all, with SciTech being a part of that collaboration and working with them. And then our information, our ICT pathway. Obviously, we would love to have a pathway for every single, like for manufacturing and engineering and all of those. But I think right now we can only handle 2. And so we've built out these pathways. We've put together some PowerPoints that I will share with all of you. And we're hoping that we will be able to roll out these 2 pathways next year. As right now, we're just promoting it and getting student interest. And then our graduation rates. We want to make sure that we're getting our students that are in our senior year, getting them graduated. This, I think, goes to something that you were talking about, Lori, is the testing quarterly, but also using the ILP, which is something that I know SciTech uses that we're going to use, which is the individual learning plan or progress. And so what we want to do is schedule out these ILPs where we're talking to students about their credit progress, their assessment progress, what other goals or what other needs do they need, just kind of a check-in, scheduled check-in with them, and watching them grow over time, and actually showing them the data that they are growing and that they're getting closer to graduation and college and career and how they're doing in pathways. So these are some of the areas that we are focused on. We started to talk about. It's in our WASC, and will be in our, is part of our charter already, but just a little more highlighted here and moving forward. Okay, that's my presentation. Thank you. And I'm open to take more questions or comments or feedback. I think this presentation needs to be done in 10 minutes. Is that right, Chief? Okay, I have got some work to do on that because I can talk a lot. But.
Yeah, you will only have 10 minutes with the board for presenting. Phil, if you could share the timeline of when it needs to be submitted, when it will be heard, public hearing and action, and then also some of the stakeholders you've been working with and the different meetings you've had. And I know you've been scheduling, I think, pretty much weekly meetings with some of our stakeholders.
Right. So we, so some of our stakeholders, certainly staff and students and parents, we did a meeting, one specifically with our staff. I did a stakeholder meeting with our director or AD directors and talked a little bit about it there, our charter petition with all of you. I'm hoping to schedule something out for just our partners. So maybe our resource link partners, and try to go through this presentation and gather some feedback there. It will go to our OYA board December 10th. The presentation, I'll present it at the OYA board meeting on December 10th. And then the final charter petition is due to the charter's office on June 4th. And then they have 90 days to review, put together their report, and then, or is it 90 days? Might be less. I think it's 30 days. And then it goes to public hearing in February. And then there's 90 days for final decision, which happens in March. And I will share those specific dates out with you. Good. So the flow of now this is just me as presenter, pretty thorough. Was there anything in it that was confusing or maybe didn't, any kind of moments where it made no sense or that I need to clear up a little bit?
I think, Phil, what would be helpful, just that conversation that we just had around the Ren star and where those numbers come from, maybe just some more context about where the data is coming from, not where the data is coming from, how you're getting those numbers.
Okay.
Another thing, which I must have missed it while you were presenting, but on the graduation slide, if you could include the number of students along with the percentages, I think that'll be helpful in adding some extra context to that slide as well.
This one here. So number of students graduating. Yeah. Okay.
With the percentage.
Okay.
But other than that, and mostly just because I don't know, what Ren Star is. I don't have all that, context, so that would be helpful. But besides that, I found this to be really, I learned a lot about OYA and a lot of the progress that you all have made, and the flow made a lot of sense to me. So I thought that was great.
Thank you. Okay.
Steve, are you thinking that the board's going to be asking Phil specific questions about his presentation, or probably not?
Yeah, the board presentations, the presentation itself is usually the county office has 10 minutes to present their findings and everything else from the petition. Then the petitioner has 10 minutes to present. And then that's usually about an hour of back and forth with the board members themselves, asking specific questions and so on. So it's usually about an hour, just board dialogue.
So are you asking, Phil, then if we think there maybe needs to be more preparation for specific questions that may be asked, or what were you looking for, Phil?
Yeah, I guess what was clear, what specific questions may be asked. I think to Courtney's point about just being clear on the RenStar, how are we collecting that? What group of students, things of that sort. I'm not sure what the board is going to ask, to be quite honest with you.
I mean, I don't know. Are they going to get down? Because what you're presenting right now, which is great, is this 30,000, what we call the 30,000 foot up in the air, right? Data. My only concern would be if they start delving more. I don't know if they would or not. So maybe that's, I'm totally off topic. But if they start delving more into the specific data, like the questions I had asked about the CCI or even the RenStar data, is there particular places in, is it reading comprehension? Is it, breaking down the bands that's testing that I'm sure is parallel to the SBAC or CASP test, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, I don't know what they would be asking, but just maybe being a little bit prepared about a little bit more digging deeper if they ask to give them sort of, I don't know. I'm just throwing it out there as I don't know how deep they're going to get in the weeds of this.
Yeah.
And when you say they, Joelle, are you talking to the board having questions or what?
I don't know how the process works or if they're looking for more clarification. So I was just throwing out some ideas.
Yeah, and what I did is I went to go look at the other charter schools that are up for renewal and looked at their presentations, which basically is very similar. So this is very similar to what they're presenting. However, they are all falling into those three tiers, that high, or the tracks, the high, middle, and low. So the board has to use the performance data to determine if they're going to renew, whereas for us, that's not the case. I mean, this is something they consider, but this would not, these performance scores, if it was low, is not grounds for them to say we're not going to renew. It's only based on, for us, it's for a DOS school, it's only based on, is this school doing damage to the students? And by closing it, it's benefiting students, which is kind of weird. So then what do they use? So which is why they call it a presumptive renewal for DOS schools. Yeah.
I wonder, Phil, if that's, well, I don't, if that's how, that they'll be looking at this information. Is there a way then to get more input from students directly and include that in the presentation to give more light to a student's actual experience?
Yes, and so one of the things I will include in this are some of the student statements, but I know that some students will be also commenting at the actual hearing. So
Awesome.
yeah, so I think hearing from them directly is also extremely important. Yeah.
Do you do that? I don't know what it's called now. I just threw out, it's a survey. When is it? It's the school climate survey.
The healthy
LCAP. Yes, yeah, that one.
The Healthy Kids Survey?
Yeah, that gives the school climate student, I don't know.
Yes, we did. We did do the Healthy Kids Survey.
That's just an easy way to capture data is all I'm saying.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I guess.
Need it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
The LCAP is so different this year, though. It's all rolled into the what we used to call the SPA, the signal plan for pupil achievement, but now it's SPS something. But it's all rolled in together.
Right.
And more of a re-engagement plan this year, and how we will address learning deficits, et cetera, learning losses. So it's a little different. And actually, I don't think anyone will have the same type data this right now as we did,
Sure.
last year. There just isn't an LCAP this year. It's been
Right.
replaced by this overall report.
I think like the only thing I think just really kind of looking at the presentation for me, that it's not so much of a question, but just to like address that I see for me that 72% of marginalized students that you serve, tie that into the graduation rates, and from the graduation rates into the college career readiness. I think those are three things that need to be tied together to show that you have made progress and you also have a plan. Because that's what I would kind of look at more, right? Because you're serving this population, because it's a big move in this county now to make sure that that population is getting an education and that they're college and career ready.
Yes, I agree. And that's kind of the story I want to tell. So that's a great point, Derek. Thank you.
And Phil, I don't know how much time you'll have, but you've got a lot of data that you'll be sharing. But if there's any way to share, to have some students chime in with some individual stories, or a parent or two, to talk about the difference, those are things that everyone appreciates, and board members especially.
Yeah.
And I know you have a lot of great student stories. So, and especially the students that have left and are in college and remaining in college, so I think your college join numbers also are pretty close to the national average for any school. So those are some things that I would, the National Public Clearinghouse, I think that's it. Is that the organization that tracks the college join rates?
Yes.
You could look at your college join rates, and I think yours are approaching the average with a very different population. So that's always something that is of interest to boards. And your persistence, the persistence of your students in the time of COVID, the fact what your ADA is right now in the times of COVID. I would have a slide about that, because it's amazing, the persistence level.
Yeah, because it's probably higher than some of the other school districts.
I would agree.
And just because I know Lori and I are knee deep, neck deep, waist deep in K-12 SWP, and the push for labor market information, the fact that your pathways are at priority, really highlighting that your students are graduating to fill the void of the jobs that they're going to need a diverse community of workforce, people going into those pathways. So ICT, was it ICT and health for the two pathways?
Yes.
Really focusing on that, because that pulls into that whole post high school earning a livable wage by the age of 25, and being really intentional in the dual enrollment K-14 pathways into community college to a career, not just a default, but that this is a career that you're building a population of students who are going to enter the workforce, the job market, labor market with skills. I think that's helpful.
I just wanted to, if I can, Steve, real quick. I know we're running out of time, but if you guys can see my screen, this is what the staff came up with. This is the health pathway. I don't know if you can see it. And I'll send this to you. But just thorough I mean, they did some really great work just breaking down careers in healthcare. What are some of the learning outcomes for students? Types of experiences are work-based learning, shadowing mentorship. I mean, just really getting into if a student, even just breaking down what are some of the courses, just doing some great work. So I'll share this with you, but, and then breaking down from, well, what is it that they're going to be going through from year to year? What is this work-based learning experience? The senior project that we used to do will now be a LinkedIn senior project that we are putting, that we're going to have our students make sure that from day one, they're starting the LinkedIn profile. And by the end of their senior year, they will have a fully built out profile that they will have listed all of these internships, all of this information. And that would be the more kind of the senior project that we want our students to do. So the ICT is another huge pathway. I can go on and on and on, but they're doing some great work. They just finished this work, and so we'll continue to kind of push on this. But anyhow, okay.
No, that looks great. My only question is it really a 4-year plan?
No, and that's the other great part of it, is that because our students are dropping in at certain times, SciTech, Beverly and Lori, we've put together a matrix so a really great matrix of students that if they come in and they're juniors, in this health plan, what are some of the things that they absolutely need to get before they graduate? So we've been able to take a 4-year plan, then make it a 3-year, a 2-year, even down to a 1-year. What are some of the actual things that we feel are most important that they need to take? So either it's an internship, is it the job shadow, is it a career lab? What are some of those things? So we've been able to pull that out. But I mean, we would love to keep a student in for 4 years.
Yeah.
And get them through the entire plan.
I think that's the only thing I would make sure is clear, that, students can, the old multiple on-ramp
Absolutely.
is really helpful for people to know that, if they come in as a senior, even, there's still things that they could do. So
my hope is that one day our students will come in and say, well, I really want to go through the entire pathway, even though I have a year left. I mean, something that is like they see the value in it, and what are they going to get out of it? Well, you're getting your internship, paid internship experience, potentially, direct employment with an employer in Google, whatever that may be, including, pathway or a plan to post-secondary college. That's the hope.
Are your pathways, are your ICT and health pathways linked to the community colleges, so they're K-14?
Yes.
To the stackable certifications.
They can be, yes.
2-year transfer.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. All right, that's all I get paid for. Did you ever hear that? Okay, never mind. You guys are the best. All right, Dr. Almos, it's all yours.
Okay, just checking the chat real quick to see if there's any questions on there to address. Looks good. So again, I appreciate everyone's time and feedback for the petition. That's something that we'll build into the petition renewal, and also update our presentation as well, and fine tune it for our December 12th OYA board meeting to present to Dr. Dewan. And then we'll be going live to the board in, what was it, February, or public hearing?
Public hearing is in February, correct?
All right, so it's coming up quickly.
Yeah.
Okay, so thank you to everyone for your feedback. Again, if you have any more thoughts on the petition, please reach out to us, or if there's anyone else you think we should reach out to, please also let us know. So with that, we'll go ahead and call the meeting to adjournment.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
All right. Thank you, guys.
Good night.
Thanks, Phil.
Bye.
Thank you. All right, Chief.
All right, you off live stream?
Yes.